All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. As Jean's obviously been chatting with you, and we are going over the testing changes, U.S. figure skating testing changes effective as of yesterday. And of course, you have me do that, but now, oh, I see it. Never mind. So let's get started. Okay. So U.S. figure skating. Oops, dang it. Okay. U.S. figure skating has changed the names of the skating tests. Changes are intended to more accurately describe the skater's progression and accomplishments through their testing. And the pre-preliminary and preliminary names are remaining the same. So you'll still start with pre-preliminary and preliminary for any of those tests that already had those. The preliminary will be followed by pre-bronze, and then the skaters will advance all the way through the gold level. So when a skater passes their gold or senior test, previously senior test, they officially earn or had earned the title U.S. figure skating gold medalist. So now with these new test names, that will correspond directly to this title. So gold test means a gold medalist instead of a senior test meaning a gold medalist. They still mean the same thing, but now it just really corresponds and the skaters have a clear idea. Obviously also relating the whole idea and testing structure to bronze, silver, gold, something that people understand with, how they earn placements in any competition, but skating competitions particularly. So those two ideas kind of married together to come up with this idea. It's something that they've already been doing in a few areas. Adults testing already kind of mirrors that idea. Bronze, silver, gold, pattern dances also do that. We'll get to that a little bit more as we go on, but that's sort of the basic idea of where they came from and where they were going. So the content and judging of the tests have not changed based on these name changes. If they decide to change content and all that could still happen and may happen down the line, and freestyle tests get tweaked and freestyle competitions and tests get tweaked every so often. So you have to keep an eye on that. But the name changes aren't causing any changes to the test going forward. So moves in the field tests are now called skating skills tests. And the reason for doing this is they did feel, and a lot of feedback in general that they got, that moves in the field didn't totally make sense to them. What they're actually doing are patterns. They're not doing just a 3-turn in the middle of the ice or something in that. So the idea was more, again, to better reflect what the testing program is and is doing. And the skating skills tests not only are doing skating skills through these patterns, but that is also then relates it to the program components that the skaters do when they're earning that in competition. And the skating skills is one of those components. And so they are able to, that's what they're building. They're building their power, they're building their edges, they're building their turns. So those things that they're learning in previous moves in the field tests are skating skills and developing skating skills toward not program components and just general and through their skating. So skating skills tests are now what we will have. Okay, so chart to show what we had. So up until June 30th, the moves in the field on the left there, starting with pre-preliminary and going all the way through senior moves in the field tests, were available to the skaters. Now those tests, newly named, but no content changing again. So they will have skating skills tests, starting with pre-preliminary skating skills and going all the way through gold skating skills tests. And again, each one kind of corresponds. So the preliminary stayed exactly the same, just switching over to that skating skills idea. And then starting with pre-juvenile, you have a full new name, pre-bronze, and moving on forward and all the way down to gold. So, and again, the moves haven't changed. So what you're doing in the test, juvenile moves in the field, stroking, power threes, all those elements that you would do in a juvenile moves test is in a bronze skating skills test. And those are the tests you have going and moving forward. Now, free skate tests, they're now going to be called singles tests. This is actually just more to relate to, even though free skate is probably still going to be used in certain terms, but as most people know, free skate is used basically for a lot of various different things. Free skate is a long program. Free skate is, you know, a test. Free skate is a competition. So they have a lot of that, and they decided the singles because it now relates directly to the discipline, which is what the other disciplines were already doing: pairs, dance, disciplines, synchro tests. Synchro doesn't have tests, but synchronized skating, all that has tests. So singles now have tests. Singles is broken up in competition into women and men, but here singles is just single. And we have singles tests that were, again, previously our free skate tests. And again, we have a chart now showing the direct relationship of the two previous names into the current names. On the left, the what we had up until June 30th, which pre-preliminary through senior free skate. And now those tests are going to be pre-preliminary singles through gold singles. And again, content wasn't changed because of the name changes, but always for free skate tests, sorry, for singles tests, got used to it too. For singles test, always be looking for, you know, if they do make changes in content along the lines, you can always look that up in the rule book or online, change that. They actually took all the content out of the rule book. That's a different change that we're not really addressing today. But the actual content is no longer of what is in a program is no longer in the rule book. So you have to look online. If you look under skate and then compete on the US Figure Skating website, tab that says skate, and then you click on compete, and you'll find where the content is. Content for competition will match up to what the content is for testing. And yeah, so that's that one. Pairs tests. So as I mentioned before, pairs was already called pairs, and they're keeping that. That's their discipline name. But they are going with the changes over from the juvenile, intermediate, and so on for tests will now be bronze, pre-silver, silver, pre-gold, and gold pairs tests. Pairs starts at bronze. They don't have a pre-bronze or anything lower than that. In pairs, they got rid of those lower level pairs testing quite some time ago. And so it's always started here at juvenile. And again, as I said, start with bronze. So bronze and all the way through gold for pairs. Free dance tests. This is partnered or solo. And again, this is free dance. And they did the same thing. They already called free dance. It will be continue to be called free dance. And they're changing their names from the juvenile through senior to bronze through gold. So it's the same as what they did with pairs, just changing that initial name. Okay, so the pattern dance tests, partnered or solo, again, this applies to both of them. So pattern dances have, as many people who do dance already know, that they already use names that are similar or the same to what they've changed all the skating skills and singles tests too. So pattern dance already, they start with preliminary, do pre-bronze, bronze, pre-silver, silver, pre-gold, and gold. They also have international, which I left off that list, but the general idea is the same and what was been adopted by the other disciplines. So, however, the pattern dances did also have a change, and that is that they're no longer going to identify the steps based on gender. So currently you have men's steps and women's or lady steps. Those will no longer be references in pattern dance. So the rule change for the pattern dances starting as of July 1, for both partnered and solo, I will now identify the steps as lead or follow. So athletes will now have the option to test the lead or follow step regardless of their gender. So a female who traditionally had follow steps, or a male who traditionally did the lead steps in pattern dance, now they can do whichever one they want. So the female can do lead steps, can do the men can do the follow steps, and yeah, so they get the choice in there. It's not going to be gender based. And then this will create 4 pattern dance test tracks. So the testing aspect of it, skaters can go lead partner pattern dance, follow partner pattern dance, lead solo, or follow solo. Those are the tracks they can do it. They can do any or all of those tracks. I see a hand raised, Carol.
Hi. So I'm assuming that there will be separate test papers indicating lead, partnered pattern dance, another test paper for follow pattern dance, another test paper for lead solo partner dance. I mean, there's going to be individual test papers.
Yeah, I haven't looked up the test papers per se yet. I'm sure they're actually online by now because they've been getting ready, them prepped. But they will either be completely separate, you know, you're gonna have to identify the lead and the follow, or there'll be a test paper. And remember how they used to do that where circle a track or something like
Sure.
that? They could possibly do it that way. I have a feeling because they've been leaning more towards doing it as separate test papers or test, you know, batches of test papers that you will have, you know, you'll be have to look up for lead partner, you know, follow solo, and you'll have to find it on the list and be able to mark the right one. The skaters themselves will have to be choosing this when they sign up for testing. We use EntryEase for our testing, and EntryEase has already changed over all their terminologies and all that. And yeah, so they already have it where the skaters will be able to look down and find a lead solo, a follow solo, and they separated them all out into the 4 tracks. So that will be available once we start setting up tests again. Right now, a lot of our testing is to be determined. We're working on it. I'm sure Carol's working on the dance. I'm working on the singles. Going back really quick, I don't actually have to go back, but for all these tests here that have changed, the singles, the moves, they actually did, US Figure Skating did go back. If anyone has tested along the way down the line, and has their testing record in US Figure Skating that you can look up on your profile, they actually did retroactively change everyone's testing record for moves in the field, singles, pairs, and free dance, were all changed to these new names. So if you passed a novice pairs test back in 1970, it will now show up as silver pairs test. If you passed your gold your senior moves test, it will now show as a gold skating skills test. So they retroactively went and changed that for everyone. They are not changing pattern dances because they didn't, one, it's a little more complicated to do and all that, but so they're not going to retroactively go back and say, oh, you were a female who took, you know, your silver pattern dances, I'm going to change it to follow. And they didn't, and for males you know, for the lead for the males. So they didn't go back and do that, and aren't planning to, at least at the moment, to retroactively change the skating record for the skaters. And my understanding is, and I will say straight off the bat, I am not a dance expert, and I did very minimal dance, and I'm not a dance judge. But from what I understand, that their plan is to basically say, if you have completed dances, partnered or solo, both, whichever, that your credit up until now, up until June 30th, you're basically grandfathered into both or either track. So if you know, have a male skater and you had done all lead partnered dances and you got through silver, and you finished your silver, then you're pre-gold. You can at this point change and switch whatever you want, do follow, lead, whatever you have credit all the way through there, and you won't get like blocked and say you don't have this test or that test and so on. So figuring out the dance is going to be a little more complicated, I think, for some people, but if you have questions, again, I'm not the expert, so if you have a skater who has questions, or you yourself have questions about where that test will go, member services at usfigureskating.org is where they want you to ask the questions for any testing questions or where you would test. And I also do know that if you're like in the middle of a test right now, let's say you've done 2 of your pre-silver dances, and now we've changed over, you do have to pick lead or follow, but you can pick either one to do whatever remaining dance or dances you have in that thing. You don't have to like start your pre-silvers over or anything like that if you're in the middle of that. So you'll be able to kind of pick and say, okay, I'm a female and I've been doing the follow steps, so I will just finish out my pre-silver as follow. So that's going to be your decision. But again, if you have any questions about where you should be testing or where you can be testing, and all that, then contact member services at usfigureskating.org, and they will be able to help you better than I can. If you need to reach out to me, I am happy to help, you know, be in touch with US Figure Skating for skaters, so I can help answer questions in that way. I just can't directly answer them very well. Yeah. Next. So this is the summary of all the tests that US Figure Skating offers as of July 1st. These are the non-adult tests. And when I say non-adult, I mean that they're not the adult-specific testing program. Of course, adults may take any or all of these tests. That is their choice. But this is what's all now offered. So we have skating skills, pre-preliminary through gold, singles pre-preliminary through gold, pattern dance, which is partnered lead or follow, solo lead or follow. And they start at preliminary and go all the way through international. And then free dance, partnered or solo, and pairs tests. And those both go bronze to gold. Okay, so now US Figure Skating the adult testing. You're saying, well, what's going on with adult testing? So as again, so anyone familiar with adult testing may already know that they already had naming their tests and their competition event, pre-bronze, bronze, silver, gold, that was already in place. And because of that, they did also have it. So once you had passed your gold test, adults who wanted to then kind of challenge themselves further or move forward, you know, I've done my gold, but I want to move forward and do more. They were allowed to do the go from the gold into the intermediate test, skating skills and singles, moves and free skate. They were allowed to move into that. So what happens now that US Figure Skating changed all of that, those names, changed the intermediate now to pre-silver, is it didn't make sense for the adults to follow along that. So if they could, otherwise they would have, oh, I did my pre-bronze, bronze, silver, gold, intermediate, which is now on the standard track called pre-silver. They could go from gold back to pre-silver and then do silver, pre-gold, gold. That didn't make sense. So the adult skating committee said, we would like to keep intermediate, novice, junior, senior, and have the people, you know, do that. So you will, Carol, about test papers. There will be separate test papers that will say adult intermediate, adult novice, adult junior, adult senior for skating skills. And adults will be able to those options if they want to take those tests. The adult pattern dances, again, there's no changes to that other than the lead and follow. They have the same situation of lead and follow, that they're taking out the gender-based steps in that. But the preliminary through international, those were already the names for those pattern dance tests. Adult free dance, that again were already the names, pre-bronze, bronze, silver, gold. So there's no change to those. Adult solo free dance, again, they decided not at this time to change over to the pre-bronze, bronze, silver, gold, although most of theirs are in that range. And I'm guessing at some point they will go ahead and change their solo dance over to those names. But for now, they've left them at juvenile, intermediate, novice, junior, and senior. And adult pairs was again already bronze, silver, and gold. They just left that. There were no changes to that. And then the final group of testing, we have adult figure skating adaptive tests. Adaptive tests are for athletes registered in any special or adaptive skating program. Their test levels were again already named pre-bronze, bronze, silver, gold for both skating skills singles. Again, they had previously had moves and free skate, and they're switching over to those skate skills and singles names for their tests. But the actual names and levels of those tests are staying the same. And by the way, back again really quick. I did forget this note at the top. Maybe you guys read it, stuff like that. So all these levels of tests that are here for our standard summary of tests here, they're also have equivalent Skate United tests for athletes, and these are athletes with physical disabilities, the Skate United program. So you could have a Skate United preliminary skating skills test. So someone with a physical disability can sign up for those. And there are certain parameters that maybe have to be met with that, but going to the leadership part of it, or even the coaches or whatever, coaches would help explain it to the test chairs. Test chairs would help make sure, you know, they do that. But we're not questioning whether the person has a physical disability. That's not our job to do, really. If questions do come up, it gets just elevated to US Figure Skating, and they help us sort it out. But again, if anyone does have skaters with physical disabilities out there, they do have the options to test under Skate United testing. They can also test standard testing. That's up to them. Okay, back to where I was, which is, so now we want to know, we have additional information about the testing program and how this maybe affects competitions. So what's not changing Skating skills tests of the equivalent level remain prerequisites for singles test. So, currently, right now, if you want to take your, or sorry, as of June, the end of June, if you want to take your senior free skate test, you had to take a senior moves test before you were eligible to take that free skate test. So now the same thing happens. Take your gold singles test. You have to have your gold skating skills test before you're eligible to take that gold singles test. So that idea and that still remains in there. Also not changing are the competition event level names. Why they decided not to change those, I don't know, other than I think there's just so much more involved in all the competitions and various competitions that we do to change that and all the records and have that change was a little bit more overwhelming. I mean, our testing program is big too, but I think just overall that would have been a little more challenging. And junior and senior particularly are used internationally and they're not changing. So if we switched over to pre-gold and gold suddenly in competition, again, it wouldn't relate to things that we're doing in higher levels and elite levels. So that would get hard. So they're leaving these competition names and those competition event level names will remain as they are. So also not changing that skaters are still required to have a minimum test level in order to compete. Just to get a little bit more information on that. Okay, so I'm using singles as an example, but the other tests also have that. So right now, to compete, if you want to compete no test and lower levels, you are not allowed to have a free skate test, singles test. So those levels, Compete USA, Excel beginner, high beginner, those introductory levels, you cannot have passed any of your singles tests. And then if you pass, so once you pass your pre-preliminary singles test, you can compete at pre-preliminary, preliminary to preliminary. Pre-bronze now equates to pre-juvenile, bronze to juvenile, and so on and so forth. So just again, looking at this, also most competitions allow for skating up, meaning a skater may compete one level up from their test level. So let's say a skater has passed their bronze singles test. That skater is eligible to compete at juvenile, or if the skater, the competition does allow skating up, which most do, they could also enter into intermediate competition level. So that's how that works. And again, it's just something that coaches and skaters are going to kind of have to start memorizing. You know, what does that test equate to in the competition level? Okay, so the decoupling idea, determining your skate level. So this actually did start back on December 1 of 2022. That rule changed to allow skaters to continue testing when in place there. So it's actually been in place for about 6 months for this particular idea. But what it is basically that the skaters may continue to test. Now they have to have that minimum test to compete at a certain level, but they can continue testing past that level. And the coaches and athletes will then be the ones to determine their competition level. And that's primarily based on a skater's technical skill set and where they think they would be most competitive at in that certain level. So in other words, it used to say skaters may, you get announcements, skaters may not skate below their test level. Now they are allowed to skate below their test level. So the competition floor, which is the lowest level of skate, where they can't skate below, is set by a paid series application, and the series applications so far are the NQS and the National Qualifying Series, or Excel. And to keep further complications and layers, the Excel series participants may compete one level lower than their registered Excel series application if they decide to go to an NQS or any of the well-balanced events at a non-qualifying competition. So if they're switching from Excel to well-balanced, then they would be able to go even one lower than their Excel series application. So I'm going to go through a few scenarios. Hopefully it'll enlighten it a little better, but here we go. So I took a skater who has passed the pre-gold singles, which was formerly the junior free skate test. So the skater is 12 years old, has passed that pre-gold junior free skate test, and that they're entering a competition that allows skating up one test level. So your scenario is this skater who has these test levels has never participated in either the NQS or Excel series, and particularly has never completed a paid series application in either of these series. So this athlete may actually choose, and we'll have available to them when they open their competition portal, all competition levels from pre-preliminary all the way up to senior. Again, they're allowed to skate up, and they would be able to do that in both well-balanced or Excel free skate tests. As my little note here at the bottom says, skater who has completed a test at the junior pre-gold level, where they are required to do double jumps and double combination. I said it is hope, but it's actually really expected that the coach and skaters would not be entering in levels, introductory levels such as pre and preliminary. Although it is technically allowed and would be on their list, it is hoped that if you're getting to that level, you're doing those doubles, you're at least going to be pre-juvenile, juvenile, that level where you would still hopefully be competitive. Or if you don't feel competitive in the well balanced, you would choose to go into Excel again, still in those. So let's take another scenario. Now we have a skater also passed the same test, the pre-gold, which is formerly the junior free skate test. The skater's 14 years old. Age doesn't totally matter other than the juvenile level that still has age restrictions. But anyway, again, their competition still allows skating up one test level. So in this particular case, the skater has completed an NQS application. Again, that's the National Qualifying Series, NQS Series application. And they did that series at intermediate in that previous season. So this athlete has now set their competition floor at intermediate. So the athlete may choose to compete in any level of competition from intermediate, their floor, to senior, because again, they're allowed to skate up. And that would be in either the NQS. So in the following year, if they want to do NQS, they want to do intermediate again, that's fine. If they want to move up to novice, junior, senior, they would be eligible to do that. Really quickly on that NQS, if you want your scores to count and you're going up, you're skating up a level. So if you're up at that junior, your junior test and you're skating up at senior, if you want your scores to count in the end of that season, you do have to have your senior test by the time you would do our gold test, by the time that you would finish the season or the time the NQS closes. They have dates on that in the NQS handbook. So if you're have skaters participating in NQS and you are not sure about skating up and when your tests are required, just look in that handbook and they have all those dates laid out. But if you're just doing a well-balanced free skate event at a non-qualifying competition, such as that does not doing NQS, such as Skate San Francisco this year, they're not NQS, they have all these events that eligible for you or available for you. That skater wants to enter Skate San Francisco, they have between intermediate to senior, they can do those levels. And then ultimately skaters also eligible to enter from Excel intermediate to Excel senior events. Again, it's the same competition floor and the same levels that they can go through all the way in Excel for this particular, when they do the NQS series application. And this again is a note, skaters may not enter Excel and well-balanced free skate in the same competition. So you have to choose one or the other each competition, but you can go back and forth if you're trying to test things out, see how you do in each competition for each various kind of competition, Excel, well balanced, and all that you're doing. Finally, one more scenario. So now we have a skater, same test pass, pre-gold, which is the junior free skate. I made this skater 15 years old, and she's going into a competition that allows skating up a test level, or he. The skater has completed an Excel series application this time, and they were novice Excel the previous season. So this athlete has two choices, but they're different. So now, so their Excel, their competition floor is novice, which is where they were the previous season and where they had the series application for. So Excel novice is their competition floor, and they can go all the way up to Excel senior events. But if the skater decides, hey, I want to go ahead and try well balanced or NQS or something, I want to switch that over. Now that skater who had the novice Excel series application can go into intermediate, well-balanced, or NQS, and all the way up to senior. So they can go one back from where their Excel was. Again, skaters may not enter Excel and well-balanced freestyle event at the same competition. Can do it per season, but not in the same competition. Anyway, those are my scenarios. Hopefully it helped clarify it somewhat. So my last section is on virtual testing. There were some changes to virtual testing rules I'm also bringing in some reminders for people who participate in virtual testing. So all videos for virtual testing must now be recorded within 14 days of the test date. It was previously, before July 1, it was 30 days of the test date. So it gave a little bit more leeway and wiggle room for those skaters trying their virtual test, getting a virtual video that they were happy with. Now they only have 14 days, 2 days. Also puts a little more pressure on myself and Carol, who are test chairs, because the skaters will be turning them in 2 weeks before the testing date. So it shortens our time to review them and help troubleshoot problems if there are any. So we still encourage you very strongly to get your test in, as your video in, as soon as possible. Earlier is better. But again, it has to be within 14 days. So for those St. Moritz people who are doing, want to do a virtual test on July 14th, which is our next skating skills, singles, and pairs test available to them, they have to have their tests recorded between yesterday, July 1, and the test date, July 14th. The test date should be the video submission deadline for virtual testing. And the reason I put should be is because it is actually a rule that the test date and the video submission date are the same. And we follow that, Carol and I do. I can't say what other clubs and test sessions, how they read that rule, if they know about that rule. So if you go to another club to test and do virtual testing and they have something different, that's on them, not us. But it should be test date and video submission deadline should be the same. The other thing that changed, it didn't really change, but they actually strengthened it, I guess you call it. So you always have to have a date and timestamp on your videos when you're doing your virtual testing. That date and time has to be on a separate digital device shown at the beginning of the test. And the date that is shown must include the month. So month, day, and time must all be on that digital date and timestamp. And month, if that's the one that's highlighted, is was causing people problems, I guess you'd say. It wasn't always shown. A lot of phones are set so that they only show like the day and the date, Tuesday 4 rather than July 4th or Tuesday, July 4th. But the month must now show. The month, saying that the month was required, what used to be in guidelines that were separately on the testing page of US Figure Skating. Now they are actually in the rules. Month is specified in the rules now. That was a rule change to strengthen that. So next thing that was changed is skaters must introduce themselves in a clear way. Before it said the video person videoing was the one to announce them. We got all sorts of things, coaches introducing, video person introducing, skaters introducing themselves. But so now they're specifying that the skaters must introduce themselves. It may be verbal. It could be on a written note. Some people do that already. They put a written note with their name and their test and the date and whatever else they want to put in there. Their club, I believe, has to be in there. And but it must be very clear. And you can do both. And I strongly suggest doing both because it definitely does help both test chairs and judges to have both visuals going on, or visual and audio going on. So this also includes, or they had added stress for this and put in the rules. This includes for partnered pattern and free dance tests. I added the and pairs tests, but it's true for both. And what must be really clear on those partnered testing is we need to know who is testing. Is it, just the female, just the male, both of them? Who's testing? Of course, in partnered pattern dance testing, you actually don't have to have a male and a female. So if two females are testing, again, we still need to know who is testing. One, both, someone just partnering them through, and all that. So you have to know, and we have to clearly know who's testing. Anyway, and another rule change, which should have been obvious, it was in the guidelines, but they have actually made this a rule. I don't know why it was a rule from day one, is that videos may only be submitted to one test session. So if you do record a video and you're submitting it on July 14th to St. Moritz, you cannot also submit it on July 15th to Vacaville. So hopefully people aren't doing that. But I guess actually probably people are, or else they wouldn't have made it a rule. Again, probably should have made it a rule from the beginning, but there we go. Additional reminders about it. These again are already in place. Videos should be recorded highest quality level available on their digital device. Videos should be in landscape, which is the horizontal. orientation, and you should zoom in on the skaters. So always question about whether we should or should not zoom in on a skater, but remember, if you're recording virtual testing, is you're trying to give the judges the experience, the closest experience to being in person as you can. And when we're standing at the rail, skaters don't look this big. Videos tend to give this kind of widespread and pull out a little bit. So zooming in is appropriate, but you have to remember to keep the skater in frame from head to toe at all times. And we do suggest a few trial runs of the test skills and elements to let the videographer practice that and how to do that. Because what we do also see once in a while is someone will zoom in, the skater will be across the way, you know, from the videographer, and they'll zoom in. And when the skater comes close to them near the wall, they lose either the head or the foot or something. Feet are more important to stay in frame, but as judges, again, we're judging the whole skater. We are looking at their carriage, we're looking at all that. So keeping them head to toe all the way through it while still zooming in, finding that balance is very important and really helps in the judging overall. Audio should be recorded on all video, including the skating skills tests. We are listening for edges. We are listening for various things. If there is background music on a skating skills test, there's no penalty on that. So you don't have to worry about that too much, but obviously the quieter, the better in all tests. You know, again, you don't want people talking over a video. You don't want people like that. So, and there should be no more than 8 people on the ice when recording. This has been a rule since the beginning. Some people follow it, some people don't. Sometimes when there's more than 8 people, you know, coach might ask people to stand aside or, you know, just whatever. And you really shouldn't be asking people not to skate when they have paid for that ice. So the goal would be to get that quietest ice session. I know they're hard to find, but to get the quiet ice session with, again, supposed to be fewer than 8 people on the ice. I would also, it's not on this thing, but I would strongly recommend those people, coaches and or the videographer, when they're recording those tests, to let any and all people on the ice know that you are recording a test video. And so at the very least, they know to A, avoid the skater, and B, avoid your camera. Ducking down helps a lot. Skaters can practice lunges, go right under you. And that, so keeping them out so they're not crossing in front of the testing video is very helpful. Anyway, finally, the video must include an entire test executed like an in-person test and continuously recorded. Skaters may consult their coach or get a sip of water during skating skills tests or other tests if they have the opportunity to have a break. But it must be on the video. Obviously, when music's going, a free skate test, singles test, free dance test, things like that would just be one continuous video, no stopping. The video must be unedited, including that intro and date time. You can't edit that onto it. And if the video is found to be edited, that test will be invalidated. So that is pretty much what wraps up the changes and the reminders for testing program of US figure skating and St. Moritz a little bit in there too. So if there are any questions, I'm gonna stop sharing. Let's see people. Okay.
I would like to make one comment in
Yes.
case anybody out there thinks that particularly the last slide that Lisa went over is not paid attention to by the test chairs. It most certainly is paid attention to by us. I have rejected virtual test videos because a skater has been blocked by another skater during the test. I have rejected videos where I cannot see the skater's feet. And this isn't just something that I have made the decision on my own. I have inquired with USFS as to whether this is a valid video, and they have come back and said, no, it is not a valid video. It should be rejected and reskated. Thank you.
And I've rejected them too. I've also had times where I've rejected / cautioned the coach and said, you know, I don't think this is an acceptable video, and they've asked me to go ahead and put it into the judges anyway, and I've had the judges reject it. So, you know, do that. Once in a while, I've actually had the judges go ahead and judge it. They felt that they had enough. There's one where a skater's spiral was partly out of view, but the rest of the test was very visible, and she was a strong skater, so the judges judged it. So that's always, again, a possibility that the judges might accept it, but that says you're taking a chance if you have that, if you're missing something, or, like you said, if you lose the feet or even the head, sometimes, I mean, you're cutting off the body and the torso. Who knows what's happening in that skater? It's going all floppy or something. I don't know. So if we can, have it, again, just keep in mind that you're trying to give that judge the in-person testing experience, and in-person testing, you usually don't have anyone else on the ice, but certainly wouldn't have a lot of people on the ice.
And the quality of the videotape is so important. I've also, and Lisa probably has had this happen as well, where the quality of the video and the audio or the audio has been so poor. And, I have to give the sad news to the coach and the skater that, look, I can't take, this is going to be a waste of your money, a waste of your time to show to the judges, because if I can't figure it out, and I'm not a judge, I really doubt that the judges are going to appreciate, looking at this video and wanting to judge you in the best possible light that you can do. So yeah, it's always good to, like Lisa said, do a run through, do a dress rehearsal, if you will.
Yeah, skaters are always practicing their tests. Have someone have the person who's going to be videoing it. Even parts of it, get an idea and a sense of it. There was a comment in the chat to ask me to show scenario A again. Did someone have a question about it, or they just wanted to look at scenario A again? Can you just look at it again? Just the skater has passed the pre-gold tests, singles tests. They're 12 years old, which makes them eligible for juvenile. The skater has not participated in either of the series, national qualifying series or Excel series. And again, the paid series application is sort of the key there. But anyway, so they would show up, all levels from pre-preliminary to senior would show up. Lower than pre-preliminary wouldn't show up because you can't have passed tests below pre-preliminary. Hope that made sense to whoever asked. All right. Oh, just looking at it. Sorry.
Please let your fellow skaters and your coach and anyone else who's involved in making these sorts of decisions aware of this Zoom meeting. It's been recorded, so it should be available to everyone in the St. Moritz Ice Skating Club.
Yeah, we're going to post it. We're going to post a copy of the recording, and we're going to post the slides that I shared. Those will both be posted on our website, and at least for the next 6 months until people start getting used to it. 6 months to a year until people start getting used to it. We'll have it out there. I think if there's no other questions, that will wrap us up for tonight. I'm looking to make sure I don't see any hands. Anyway, thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
And Jean, you can stop the recording and we can move
nice
along.
to meet you all.
Have a nice night.
Nice to see you all.